So we are going to start off our lesson with Fusion and talking about sketches. So like I said before, sketches are just the 2D starting point of when you make a 3D object. Generally, the process that you'll be working through is starting off by making a sketch, and it'll have all of your dimensions, all of your constraints, all the information associated with that. Then you'll put it through the Create section, which will then turn that 2D object into a 3D object, and then you'll go and modify your 3D part. And this is where you can add in a lot of complexity and make your part a little bit more refined. For example, for this project, we're going to be working on something dead simple. We'll be making a rectangle with the side cut out of it. We'll be extruding it up and then carving off the edges so everything is nice and smooth. To very start off, we're going to be going up to this section over here where it says Create Sketch with the green plus mark, and we'll be clicking that. And then we have the option of which plane do we want to work on. And this is a more important portion than a lot of people realize. Where is your starting plane? Where are you working from? We have the option of working on the front, the right, or the top plane. Generally, most of the time, I always click the top because I imagine that I'm always drawing something on a top-down view of a table. But you want to model it in the right plane so that when it comes time to making it in real life, that it actually translates. If you were going to be making a plant pot, for example, you would make it in this orientation. You wouldn't make it like this because that's not how it exists in real life. So most of the time that I'm working on something, it's going to be a top-down perspective. So I'm going to click this plane right here that intersects with the green and red axes. And this will give us a head-on view. And you'll see up here our toolbar has also changed as well. Now we do have create and modify, but this is going to be creating, which basically means putting down simple shapes, circles, polygons, rectangles, etc. And then modifying is doing something to change it, so rounding the corners of it. And then we have a section up here called constraints. Constraints is a special part of modeling where you are restricting its movement not by adding dimensions and saying it has to be this size, but purely by the geometry. So if I make two lines and I need them to be exactly equal, then I can just apply the equal constraint right here. If I make two lines really quickly and they're almost parallel but they're just barely off, well then I can put in the parallel constraint and that'll make them go and be perfectly straight. So for our very simple project for today, we'd be starting off in the Create section. We've got all of these different shapes up here: lines, rectangles, arcs, splines, which would be, well, mathematical curves, but we can also put in points, text on curves as well, and we're also able to do things like mirroring, so we only have to do half the job if we know our sketch is going to be symmetric. And we also have the option of making a circular and rectangular pattern, which we will be doing today as well. First things first, we have our little origin right here. This is the center of our universe. This is generally where everything is going to be based off of. It's the only point where you can really snap to. So we'll be clicking on the rectangle tool up here, the 2-point rectangle. If your toolbar doesn't look the same to like mine up here, that's completely fine. You can always go in there and then change it around. You have these little 3 dots. So I just have the most common tools that I have pinned to my toolbar. So that's why this may look a little bit different to me. But we're going to be clicking on 2-point rectangle, and anytime you see this little letter next to it, it means it's already a shortcut on your keyboard. So instead of going through all of that, I'm just going to click R on my keyboard, and then I can now click 2 points. So the way this works is I can click 1 point, move my mouse over, and then click a second time. And there you go, I've established my first shape. But if you see right next to my cursor, I have the little rectangle icon, and I also have the rectangle icon highlighted up here as well. So I'm going to click Escape, and now I've just erased everything, and now I'm completely fresh. The Escape key is your friend today. Now that I have this, I can click and drag, I can stretch this, I can grab on the points, I can move in any which way that I want. Also some other tools up here, I can always grab the circle, click, pull away, and click again. hit escape, and I can also move this any which way that I want. But a really important part about this, and this will get into the heart of CAD, is you'll notice all of these edges are this kind of sky blue, and that is because it is what we call undefined. Saying that it is undefined means that it doesn't have any idea where its location is or where its scale is. So we have, even if we give it a dimension, it's still saying, hey, I don't know where I am. It isn't fixed down in any location, and what we're looking for is to have a defined process. So I'm just going to highlight and hit delete to get rid of those. So I actually want to locate it right at the very origin. So I'm going to click R on my keyboard again, click the origin, and then pull away. I don't care what size it is, and then click again and hit escape. And what you'll notice now is that I've got 2 black lines and 2 blue lines. And the black lines is exactly what we're looking for. It means these are defined. It means even though I can still change the height, and that's adjusting this top bar, this section right here, it will not move. It is completely fixed, which means it, well, if I have any changes down the line, that it won't be because this is moving. It is totally locked in place. That's what we're looking for. I also want to put in a little circle, and I want to put it right in the very middle. So I'll click that right there, and then hit escape. And with the features that we have in right now, all of it is completely underdefined, and so we want to change that as much as possible. We want to give it some dimensions, and we want to give it some constraints. So generally, anytime that I'm designing something, I always go down the process of just throwing all my geometry on my screen. I don't care how it looks. I don't care if lines are the wrong size, if they're not parallel. Don't care about it. Just throw it on there. Then I can apply all of my constraints. This will kind of get things looking about the same orientation, about in the same size, and then I can apply some dimensions to make sure everything's locked down in place. That's always my process. So don't be worried about putting in an object and going through all the process of dimensions and this and that. Just put everything on there. For right now, we're going to be adding some dimensions to this, and that is going to be with the sketch dimension tool. You can also hit D on your keyboard to bring this up as well. What I'm looking for today is to make a 50 by 25 millimeter rectangle, and I want a, let's say a 10 millimeter circle where the very center of this circle is right on that top corner. So the first thing we're going to do is, well, now that we've put all of our parts on there, we want to give it a constraint. And I'm looking for the coincident right here. Coincident, as the name implies, 2 co, and then incident just means one location. So it means 2 things, bring them to the exact same location. So I can click that, and then I'm going to click the center of my circle and that corner, and then it pulls it together. Then I can hit escape on my keyboard. And now they are totally connected. And anytime I click on this, you'll see that I've got these 2 icons. This is the same as the toolbar up here. This is saying, hey, the location of the center of the circle and the location of the corner of that rectangle, they are coincident. They're completely connected. Now I can put in some dimensions. So again, I can either click sketch dimension up here, or I can go D on my keyboard. And I'm going to say that this wants to be 50 millimeters. So I'm going to move my mouse over until I see that line is highlighted. I want to click it. Then I can pull my dimension out of the way, click it again, and then it's highlighted in blue, which is saying, hey, now you can put in all of your dimensions. So I'm going to type 50 and then enter. And I don't need to say millimeters or inches because everything is already set to millimeters up here. Then I'm going to go up to the top section. I'm going to click, pull my dimension away, click again, type in 25, and then enter. And there we go. That's looking good. And I'm going to do the same thing for the circle. Let's make it 10. So click the circle, pull my dimension away, click it again, type in 10, and then enter. The reason that I'm pulling it away is so that I don't have all of my dimensions kind of clogged together, they're overlapping, and then I can't see what's going on. I want to be able to know exactly what is pointing to what, so everything is nice and organized. If I don't have things completely nice and neat, then I'll run into a lot of issues down the line. So with this in place, you'll notice everything is black, which means it is fully defined. And then I can pop into my modify section. So if I wanted to apply a fillet, which is just a radius to a corner, then I can click fillet, and then I can click on a couple of corners. And I'll say, yep, that 5mm works just fine. There we go. I've now got some shapes to it. And this is the general process that you'll come through anytime you're doing a sketch. You'll be throwing all your geometries on there, applying some constraints, putting on a couple bits of dimensions, and then modifying and changing it around. But another process that we can do to make it a little bit more advanced is by saying, hey, there's some relationships to all this. I can say, hey, I always want this horizontal line to be exactly half of my height over here. So regardless of how large it is, I always want to have that dimension. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these. And let's say I want it to be 35 tall and 70 wide. Let's put in another dimension. This is where the parametric side comes in. So I'm going to go D on my keyboard, and I'm going to say the dimensions from there to there. This is 35, and hit enter. And then the distance from there to there, bring that up. I'm actually going to click on this, and it's going to say, hey, D5, that is the 5th dimension we put down, and you'll see a little FX, which means function. I can put in a little bit of math into it. So now I'm going to go back to my keyboard and do multiply by 2, and then hit enter, and you'll see, yep, my function now equals 70. So if I go back and change this, if I say, oh no, this was actually supposed to be 25, and hit enter, then this completely adjusts to it. It has a relation to it. So this is a really good way if you ever need to do any design changes down the line, but you know some things have to have a relation, you can put it in this section right now. The less things you can change in CAD, the better. Hey guys, thank you very much for checking out our intro series to CAD modeling using Fusion 360. If you'd like to learn more about Fusion 360 and all of the exciting projects you can make using this tool, then consider investing in yourself and your time by purchasing the rest of this course, where we'll work on CNC projects, photorealistic rendering, animated moving models, and much, much more. Within this program, you'll be following a cohort of fellow makers while working in weekly group sessions where you'll be receiving help through curated Discord servers, weekly office hours through Zoom with our fellow CADclass team, where we can answer any questions you may have, along with up-to-date PDFs and videos to assist you along the way. Thank you guys so much, and I'll see you on the next one.